Lucas was following Asher, as was Livia, as they were returning to the Greville estate. "By the way, who was that girl?" Damien asked, his curiosity mirrored by Amelia. "We've never seen her before." Damien questioned excitedly. It was evident why he was so intrigued, but Asher avoided his question. "I will go to the Greville estate after making a detour," Asher informed Hassan. "Ah, that might be a bit challenging," Hassan responded. The current situation was precarious, and Hassan didn't want to take any chances with Asher's safety. But how could he predict that the individual he was concerned for was the very same person who had plunged the entire world into chaos? In his wildest dreams, nobody could even imagine that the masked man named Zephyr was none other than Asher Greville. "Does he want to hide her identity?" Damien whispered to Amelia. "I think so too," Amelia nodded. The whole world was in turmoil, but these two were more curious about Asher's partner, who had already departed. "It can't be someone from the academy," Amelia deduced, as almost everyone from first-year to third-year students avoided Asher. "Emmy will take me there," Asher said. Hassan glanced to his right, and a car appeared with Emmy stepping out. "Okay. If it's her, I can trust your safety in her hands," Hassan replied, looking back. Lucas watched Asher, confused. "I'll return to the estate after a few hours," Asher replied. Lucas smiled, finally getting the chance to spend time with Asher and learn from him. "It's time you learn the techniques you created," Asher thought. Asher noticed Lucas's expression as he turned to enter the car, where Emmy was waiting. Asher climbed into the car, removed his suit, and looked at the tablet in the car. "Is she at the mansion?" Asher asked. "Yes, I have escorted her safely," Emmy confirmed. Relieved, Asher opened the tablet and received Gavin's message. "Less than Gavin. I have secured the drops of blood, but why do you need it?" "Greater than." "Less than Asher. Just send them to me when you reach the World Academy. Greater than." Asher observed that the first prey had already fallen into his traps. Ads by Pub Future. He didn't need to do anything else as nothing unexpected happened during this mission. He was prepared to deal with unknown variables, but this time, nothing of that sort occurred. "And I completed some quests as well," Asher thought, looking at the notification. Hidden quest completed. Objective: make Nathaniel Greville get the SSS rank mana gem. Reward: 2000 fate points. This was the first quest he completed when Nathan earned the possession of the most coveted mana gem in the world. Hidden quest completed. Objective: prevent the Kalwas Gala. Reward: 1000 fate points. It had been a long time since he had received any hidden quests, but that was expected because he hadn't made any significant changes until now. Cassie Hargrave. Asher pondered on the new variable that had surfaced at the gala. And he knew it was related to the twins. He didn't know much about Cassie, so she was one of the few people he wanted to thoroughly investigate. After all, Lucas was one of Asher's strongest cards for the future. Even though he had recruited Dane and Kai, both of whom were extremely powerful hunters, Lucas was unique, surpassing both Dane and Kai despite being nearly half their age. "What do you know about Cassie Hargrave?" Asher asked Emmy, who was taken aback by his question. "Ah, she was Sir Ivar's fiancée," Emmy replied. "Though I'm not entirely sure if it's accurate, she wanted to marry Sir Ivar, but he refused her," Emmy added. "I think you should take a look at Rap D Alpha's novel, C Omicron M." Then the Hargraves used the promise to force Master Arthur to break his engagement with Lady Sylvie or allow her to marry Sir Ivar, Emmy elucidated. Although it wouldn't have happened if she didn't have her father's support, Emmy told Asher. Zerax Hargrave was the reason that Cassie had such power and freedom in the Hargrave family. Some people even suggested that she might have taken the position of family head if she hadn't pursued her marriage with Ivar. "I heard that many women who tried to court Sir Ivar were killed on her orders, but no evidence was found against her," Emmy added. It was not hard for the Hargrave family to suppress such incidents, but Cassie had one more card in her hand, her connection with the underground organizations that accepted requests from only a select few. Since the day Sir Iver died, Cassie Hargrave has secluded herself in her mansion, but perhaps because of the existence of young Master Lucas and young Lady Livia, she came to the gala, Emmy concluded as Asher listened attentively. Asher could already sense that her target would be the twins, but he was still unaware that Cassie had already planned to present marriage proposals to the Greville family for Asher. She wanted to ensnare the heir by choosing Asher's partner and turning him into her pawn. After half an hour of driving and using a teleportation gate as well, Asher arrived at the mansion. Emmy stood outside as per usual, following Asher's orders. Asher entered, and he saw Alyssa, who was wearing her mask, reverting back to her scarred look. "Follow me. I'll introduce you to the rest of the members," Asher said as Alyssa rose to her feet. Asher had already told Dane and Kai to assemble in the meeting room with Tom, as Asher wanted Alyssa to be aware as well. "Hi boss," Dane greeted as all three of them rose when Asher and the masked girl entered the room. Asher took the center seat, while Alyssa took the one opposite where Tom and the others were seated. "Firstly, you should know about this," Asher said as he summoned Riffer. "I saw it in the video, but it's real?" Dane questioned, his face a picture of shock. He had never seen anyone tame a monster, and it even stunned Kai, who had thought the snake was fake or an illusion. Riffer studied everyone as its eyes landed on Alyssa, who returned its gaze. "So, you're that masked man?" Alyssa asked while maintaining a calm demeanor. "Contemporary romance. Ra Nd Alpha S Novi Epsilon L, C Omicron M, yes, and now you are also part of Zephyr. We have one more member, but he won't join us for now," Asher said, referring to Sam Allister. He was not ready to let Sam join just yet. "You won't join any of the missions yet," Asher declared. There were two reasons Asher did not want Alyssa to participate in Zephyr's activities yet. One was the fact that she was not ready or strong enough to handle the difficulty of the missions that Asher would assign Dane and Kai. Secondly, when dealing with elite families, Asher had no idea when Alyssa might lose her self-restraint. "Okay, should I go back to World Academy now?" Alyssa asked. "Wait for a few days before going back," Asher instructed. Alyssa stood up. "Ask Emmy to take you to your room," Asher said, and Alyssa nodded at him. She exited the room, leaving Dane and Kai to watch the interaction in silence. It was the first time someone had spoken with Asher without changing their expression. Both of them were highly inexpressive, so this made for a strange sight. "As for you guys," Asher turned and looked at Dane and Kai. "I have already sent the payment for this mission, and Tom will give you the details about the next one," Asher declared. Dane and Kai's faces changed slightly at this news. "Don't worry, it's only a tracking mission. You'll be safe," Tom interjected, providing the details of the mission. "Ah, if it's a tracking mission, then it's fine," Dane replied, glancing at Kai, who was the best person for this job. "Also, start targeting the business of these elite families." Asher passed Tom a device that had few names on it. And one of them was the Neville family. "Ruin their public image, and do it before the situation calms down," Asher told Tom. At the Kalwaz Gala, a certain individual seemed a bit pleased with the current situation. "Found it, your weakness," Leonard smiled as he gazed at the image of Asher's partner. "She's not from the World Academy," Leonard asserted, confident in his knowledge of every single student in the World Academy. "Let's see how long you can hide her," Leonard challenged, his eyes fixed on the image of Asher and Alyssa dancing together. "In the Artisans Association Tower. Will you go there as well?" a middle-aged man asked. "If they call for my assistance, then I have to move," Dexter replied, shifting the runes across the room. In his quest for answers about the breached vault, he discovered several new things, currently engrossing him. However, if the SSS rankers called him, he had no choice but to help them. Unlike the elite families, the association held more power and authority, but this came with the responsibility for the whole world. Dexter couldn't ignore the summons like Nathan did, as it contradicted the oath he took when he became chairman of the Artisans Association. The request for weapons has increased a lot. We can raise the prices, the man began, but Dexter's glare silenced him. Making money isn't bad, but now isn't the time, Dexter said. He had made considerable money crafting armor and weapons for various people, and many elite families were requesting him to produce more. Still, he denied them all. The Artisans Association was the largest trading hub for hunters' equipment. The current situation had dramatically increased the demand for such items. Right now, they could exploit many people, but it contradicted Dexter's morals. I apologize, the man apologized, understanding Dexter's orders. Runic art users weren't among the top hunters, so it was obvious that many in the Artisans Association disliked guild hunters. Only a few could become rune experts capable of forging weapons and artifacts and were highly regarded, like Dexter Wright. The man, not wishing to bother Dexter further, left the vast room filled with various machines and technology. Dexter raised his hand, and a hologram appeared, full of news featuring the moment the explosion happened at the Kalwas Gala. These guys sure talk a lot, Dexter said, turning towards the new runic formation he was creating. The entire internet had gone mad with theories about Zephyr, and the reputation of elite families was plummeting. But amidst this chaos, some people heard the speech of the masked man and considered opposing the rich and powerful. Ads by Pub Future. Numerous small groups were forming worldwide, but they were not acting hastily. The World Association had already warned that any criminal activity would result in severe punishments. Rank hunters were called to patrol the cities and ensure nothing was going wrong, and various people trying to align with Zephyr were arrested. Those people were petty criminals trying to exploit the situation but failed. As all the seat holders instantly agreed to provide support, the World Association was managing the cities, ensuring peace was maintained. And all those powerful enough to cause significant disruption were laying low, unsure about joining this unknown organization. In the Fascia continent, "Get away from this area," one of the team leaders shouted. They were already informed that Joseph Kimia Cranston and Nathaniel Greville, the Sword God, were coming to the Fascia continent to deal with the awakened calamity, contemporary romance. The problem was that the result of a fight involving an SSS rank could destroy cities, so they needed to retreat. So, are we going to avoid the monsters coming from this direction? An A-rank hunter asked. He was a novice who had just joined his new guild and was already participating in such a mission. Don't worry about them, the team leader replied. Those monsters will change their direction soon, just evacuate from here, he repeated as everyone started to leave. In a few seconds, two individuals appeared in the sky, looking over towards the land beyond the border. Various dots could be seen by them, and they were the aerial monsters running away from the awakened calamity. Some of them were S-rank monsters that could wreak havoc in cities if they entered. Even fighting a single aerial S-rank monster required multiple S-rank hunters, and most of them were mages. Do you want to deal with it? Joseph asked, looking at Nathan, who was wearing his heavy black armor with his famous greatsword in his hand. Nathan's eyes shone as he flared his mana, making his presence known. Not to these monsters, but the SSS rank entity far from them. Don't tempt that monster to come near here, Joseph said with a frown on his face. He didn't want to lure the monster even a bit closer to the border. Sure, Nathan said as he raised his greatsword. He slashed it downward, but nothing happened, confusing some of the SS rank hunters behind them. But in the next instant, they felt the mana behind them rush forward as they saw a sleek red line travel forward, and in the next second, all the S-rank monsters in the air were dead. Is that the power of SSS rank hunters? One of them muttered in disbelief. Although they were not weak themselves, some of them, despite being SS rank, had never seen an SSS rank hunter fight. They knew only an SSS rank hunter could kill an SSS rank, but seeing it with their own eyes, they understood the difference between them and the two monsters in front of them. Let's go, Joseph said as Nathan flared his mana and disappeared instantly. Similarly, other SSS rank hunters were also moving towards the calamities. So, did you find out who this guy was? One of the World Association officials asked. His name is Irwin, the man replied. According to our database, he was a professor at the World Academy, the man said. World Academy. The other officials appeared confused. He went missing according to the latest information we received about him, the man said as he removed his hand from Irwin's face. Report this news to the seat holders, one of the officials instructed. It was decided that all the information about Zephyr would be shared among the seat holders without fail. This meant that the World Association also had to continuously report such matters to the seat holders or the families they represented. Gather all the information about his background, and check the database to see if his face appeared anywhere in the past couple of months, the official instructed as he turned to leave. They had already cleared all the dead bodies around the operation tower. Did you find the backup security footage? He asked one of his assistants. None, everything has been destroyed, there are no traces left, the assistant replied. Damn it, find anything. We can't send an empty report, the official said with a frustrated look on his face. There was not a single clue about the people who had thrown the whole world into chaos. So, do we have any information about the masked man called Zephyr? A reporter asked during an interview with the officials of the World Association, who were seated alongside James Rothschild and the head of the Williams family. They had called a press conference to assure the public that the situation was under control. Not at this moment, but we will capture them soon, one official replied. How soon? They have awakened the calamities, doesn't that mean that these people are quite powerful? Another reporter queried. First of all the SSS rank hunters are handling the calamities, so you can rest assured about that, James intervened, stopping the World Association official from responding. A sneak attack doesn't necessarily indicate they are powerful, James argued, his dominating aura silencing the room. If they were as powerful as you assume, why not confront the elite families openly? James's speech resonated not only with those in Desmer but across the globe. This was the first statement issued by the World Association or the elite families. All this will be handled soon, James assured. But what about the explosion at the gala? A reporter asked. The broadcast was interrupted just as the explosion happened, so they were aware of the attack on the Kalwas gala. Just as you can see, none of the people there were hurt, James lied. Many young people were injured, but they received quick treatment. It was a pathetic attempt by them to instill fear in others, James remarked. Can you explain the issue regarding the Whiteheart family and Zephyr? Another reporter asked. This was a question many wanted to be addressed. And after discovering that the elite families had withheld this information from the public, many people grew curious and began slandering the Whiteheart family to uncover the truth. The incident was minor, merely an attempt to steal from the vault. But as you know, the auction happened at the Kalwas gala, so you can speculate on what might have happened. James offered, but this was another lie. The world didn't need to know that two artifacts were stolen under the nose of the Whiteheart family. The only ones aware were the seat holders and a few others who were part of the upper echelon of society. This information was not only detrimental to the Whiteheart family but would have harmed the reputation of other elite families. Naturally, if James had spoken the truth here, Cumden wouldn't have let that slide, as he would have exposed that it was Louis Rothschild who had failed. Williams noticed James's lie, but he didn't react to it. After all, just like him, James was also looking to maintain a good relationship with the Whiteheart family, as it had been for years. And this is where we will end this conference, James announced, standing up along with the others. All disturbances around the world will be settled down soon, he said as he turned to leave. The other officials followed suit as the reporters diligently captured their departure. The head of the Williams family smiled, appreciating that James Rothschild was the perfect person to calm the public in such a scenario. The Rothschilds have maintained their image so well that people always looked up to them, given the family's involvement in many sectors like entertainment and a few others in Desmer. What are you going to do now? The Williams head asked. We will first deal with the monster tide, James replied. Adds by Pub Future. However, he was aware of what was to come after handling all of this. I have sent my team to investigate Zephyr, the Williams head informed. They stopped at the exit where 2 cars were waiting for them. The Williams head left first, stepping into the car with his butler at the wheel. Sir, the Tervian family mentioned a delay with the item you requested, the butler informed him. We can't do much now, the Williams head murmured. Tell Reese to return to World Academy now. We can have his treatment done after he graduates, he instructed, to which the butler nodded. Now, who are these guys? The Williams head wondered, looking at the information he had gathered from his sources. A group had appeared out of thin air, and neither their actions nor their methods made sense to anyone. Sigh, I'm too far in to back down now, the Williams head mused. In Soren, all the elite families had sent their children back so that they could attend World Academy, one of the safest places for them, given the robust security there even without Farnes's presence. Can't you stop him? Amelia asked Damien, worry evident on her face. It's a spa, and Lucas and Livia wanted it. Damien tried to reassure her, but he himself was uncertain whether the twins could handle sparring with Asher. Hey, don't hurt them too much, Damien called out, capturing Asher's attention. Asher glanced back at Lucas, who was staring up at him, ready to attack, with Livia holding a greatsword. So, she has enough talent to learn that sword art, Asher observed Livia's stance, contemporary romance. Although he had forgotten the essence of Nathan's sword art, he recognized it nonetheless. Nathan's sword art was special as even Ivor and Arthur couldn't learn it because they failed to accept the rune of Aeirdan. Yet, the weakest-looking person here had endured the rune of Aeirdan, as Nathan teaching her his techniques was proof that she had obtained that rune. I will go first, Livia announced, dashing towards Asher with all her strength. Asher looked at Livia, sensing that Lucas was preparing a spell to cut off his escape route. Asher lowered his body, adjusting his sword downward, and swung it, prompting Livia to block it. However, the impact of Asher's strike sent Livia flying towards Lucas, who panicked and tried to catch her. Asher disappeared from his spot and wrapped his sword around Lucas's neck. You lost, Asher declared as Lucas caught Livia. But I was. Lucas started. Start again, Asher interrupted as Livia got up, her eyes even sharper. Let's do it again, Livia told Lucas, who nodded. The same scene repeated itself, with Damien and Amelia watching the twins continuously losing to Asher. Still, they were learning from their mistakes and adjusted their approach rapidly. They're quite good, Damien commented, but Amelia remained focused, ensuring Asher wouldn't hurt them too severely. She's too serious, Damien thought, shaking his head as he noticed Amelia. But then he remembered how all of Asher's spars ended. And it made Damien pay closer attention so he could stop the spar if it went too far. Why don't you train like them? Damien asked Nate, who was reading a book next to them. Mind your own business, Nate retorted, ignoring Damien, who was annoyed by Nate's reply. How rude, I am your older brother, Damien retorted, grabbing Nate's head. Nate tried to remove it, but Damien was too powerful for him. Hey, don't bully him, Amelia scolded, smacking Damien's shoulder. I was just teaching him, Damien defended, removing his hand from Nate's head. I should just release that video online, Nate contemplated. But thinking about Damien's reaction, he felt that it might be pushing his luck too far. Sigh, I will forgive you this time, Nate said as he shook his head. Don't get distracted by her, Asher warned, sending a small fireball at Lucas who narrowly dodged it at the last second. The issue with Lucas was that he was operating as Livia's support, and this was not what Asher had envisioned for him. In Asher's memory, Lucas had already lost Livia, leading him to function as a solitary mage. This ultimately resulted in the creation of techniques that merged with his bloodline ability, making him one of the most potent mages, if not the most potent. Enough. You can rest now, Asher interjected, observing Livia whose hands were shaking from withstanding all of Asher's strikes. Okay. Livia agreed, heading towards Amelia. She recalled Nathan's advice to avoid pushing herself too hard during spars. Nathan noticed that Livia had a fervor to grow stronger, but her proactive nature sometimes led her to overexert herself. Asher turned his attention to Lucas as he stored his sword back in his storage ring. Our next fight will be as mages, Asher declared. He continued to prod Lucas while ensuring that he became aware of his bloodline ability. He has an exceptional amount of mana for his rank, Damien noted, watching Lucas spar with Asher. However, Damien's observation was incorrect. Lucas didn't possess an excessive amount of mana, rather, his bloodline ability allowed him to utilize surrounding mana to a greater extent for his spells. Even if it seemed rudimentary, Asher noticed that Lucas was already somewhat employing the technique, at least in its core principle. Their sparring session continued for another half an hour before Lucas became too fatigued to continue. Did I do well? Lucas inquired, looking up at Asher. Considering Asher his role model, he was curious about his performance. Yeah, Asher responded, but he had nothing more to add for Lucas. He answered in a way that he thought would please Lucas's present self. Young master, the documents are ready, Emmy reported, turning to Asher. Have you listed the names of those companies? Asher asked. Yes, but I'm not confident they will agree to the sum, Emmy responded. Just send them this offer a week later, Asher instructed, to which Emmy nodded. If they reject the proposal, it doesn't matter, Asher added, glancing at the notification he received from Tom. So, they've started their fight, Asher thought as he looked at the notification. You should rest more, Tom said to Dane who was standing behind him. I was getting too bored, don't mind me, Dane replied. What a weird guy, Tom thought. But considering their mission, it was better that Dane was like this. But how did you know that exploding those lands would awaken those monsters? Dane asked. Half of their mission involved going deep into the lands that were abandoned and safely planting explosives that Tom provided at certain locations. Doing so, there were multiple times when their presence would alert the S-rank or SS-rank monsters in the vicinity. There were multiple times where both of them were killed just reaching that location, but the teleporting artifact helped them a lot. Don't ask for too many details, Tom replied as he couldn't disclose that it was Asher who told him to mark all these locations. Be grateful that the mana didn't damage your mana meridians too much, Tom said. Dane and Kai had recovered from the mana poisoning, and the small black veins on their bodies had disappeared. Well, I can feel mana properly now, Dane said as he tried to cover his hand with aura. It was strange for him, as he had never withstood such an amount of mana with his own body. Unlike the mana in the air or in the mana gem, that wasn't pure mana, but the mana that accumulated in those lands due to the presence of monsters. That wild mana was present there only due to the mana region that was spreading beneath the land, absorbing the mana in the surroundings. This made Dane recall the mission given to them. A month before the Kalwas Gala. In the land beyond the border of Fascia. Dane and Kai were standing above a cliff. As they looked downward, all they could see was a current of mana. Do we really have to go down there? Dane asked. Why yes, do. Don't waste time. Tom's voice was getting a lot of interference due to the mana field that was all around them. Dane looked at Kai who nodded back at him. These mana currents are even more powerful than the one in Desmer, Dane said as he touched the device around his arm. But what the hell are these? I haven't heard about anything like this in these forgotten lands, Kai asked, but both of them were clueless. They had heard that calamities existed in the forgotten lands, but such things were hidden from most people of the world. Right now they were so deep inside the forgotten lands that even the biggest guilds didn't venture this deep. Even the SSS rank hunters only ventured inside these lands when a large dungeon like a SS rank or SSS rank was found near the borders. Ads by Pub Future. Although Nathan had made the Abyss Guild venture quite far into the Lost Lands, he ensured that their exploration only happened where the dungeon was available. Contemporary romance. Let's hope this armor holds on, Dane said as they jumped off the cliff near the stone platforms. Descending down near the mana current, Kai stopped as he took out a special explosive which had runes all around it. It was a fist-sized glass ball that started floating along the mana current. Ah, this feels like shit, Dane said as he kept dropping the explosives. He could feel needle-like things poking all around his body, but that was only the wild mana that was forcing its way inside his body. Screech. Various flying monsters that were S-rank started flying above where Dane and Kai were standing. Shit, let's hide for now. Dane pulled Kai back towards the wall as they hid themselves. Their eyes were looking at the sky as Kai made both of them invisible, but his magic was unstable. This made some parts of their bodies visible, but Kai was still trying to hide them properly. Dane pulled out his sword just in case they were spotted by the monsters above them. We only need to drop 20 more, Kai said as he stepped forward. I'm ready to use this, Dane suggested as he grabbed the necklace. Each of the explosives was transparent and full of runes that made them float on the mana current, and they went with the flow, disappearing from sight. They were told that these explosives would somehow reach the SSS rank monsters, but they didn't know how. But right now, leaving the place alive before their control over mana became unstable was the priority. This was not the only mana current that they needed to drop explosives on, they needed to go around various places. But you should still rest and recover yourself completely, Tom made Dane snap out of his thoughts. I think you should take a look at Rap D Alpha's novel, C Omicron M. Okay, Dane said as he went back to his room. Tom looked at the screen, remembering Asher introducing Alyssa to the team. What is he trying to achieve? Tom asked himself, but he couldn't come to a single conclusion. Nothing about Asher made sense to Tom. She looks similar to the boss, Tom thought as he recalled seeing Alyssa's eyes. Rap D Alpha S Novi Epsilon LC Omicron M, but Tom also remembered the fact that Alyssa was related to the Garcia family, which made him skeptical of what Asher was trying to achieve. Tom had discovered so many things about the elite families that he couldn't believe were hidden from the common public. And this made him think deeply about Asher's purpose. Well, let's start with these companies, Tom said as he pulled out the database that was collected by Dane and Kai in the second part of their mission. Surprisingly, most of the information they found was hidden in the files Tom managed to retrieve from the database that was present in the data hidden under Osbert's authorities. This breach of data was not known, as Tom hid it behind the hacked broadcast, and while covering their tracks, he made them think that Zephyr only took access to the broadcast. But due to the short amount of time Dane and Kai had to exit the building, only a portion of that data was taken by Tom. Dave issued the warning. Tom looked at the screen as he noticed the warning signals from various guilds. I should inform the boss about it, Tom said as he informed Asher. The SSS rank hunters had started approaching the calamities, and the guilds were told to hold off the monster tide away from the cities. In Desmer, do you sense that presence ahead? Silvus asked, and the rest of the two nodded. Make sure that it doesn't move towards the border, Silvus said as Dalton took charge ahead of him. Can you guess the type of monster it is? The vice chairman of the World Association asked Silvus. Both of them knew that his mana sensitivity was high, so he could somewhat guess the power of the monster much better than them. The mana ahead is too chaotic. We will learn about it as we fight, Silvus said. They had no choice but to learn about the monster as they fought, and this was why multiple SSS rank hunters were joining hands together. Also the reason why Silvus, Nathan, and Farnas had gone to different continents. Soon, all three of them stopped as they noticed a yellow-colored monster, the size of a building, looking at them. Scales covered its skin, from which a green-colored aura was leaking out. I will start first, Silvus said as various tornadoes appeared all around them. Shrushprem Tezal, Silvus uttered, and hands made of lava appeared from the ground to latch onto the SSS rank monster. It was the highest tier fire element spell, capable of devouring an SS rank monster. Who the monster roared, looking at the sky. The green aura seeping from its skin flared, destroying the spells that Silvus had cast. Dalton took out his blue sword, and the aura began to destroy the land beneath him. The vice chairman unsheathed his sword as well. Both were swordsmen, and Silvus was there to assist them with their fight. However, they were waiting for Silvus to get serious, and it didn't take long for them to notice a silvery mana around him, which distinguished him from other mages. Suddenly, pillars made of stone erupted from the four sides, and Silvus raised his hands, causing the air around him to tremble. The pillars started shining as Silvus created a barrier, cutting off the mana connection of the SSS rank monster from the mana region. The monster noticed these pillars and turned its tail to hit one, but before it could, Dalton disappeared and blocked the massive tail with just his sword and aura. He could feel that his aura was struggling against the monster's green aura. Before the monster could push Dalton, the vice chairman raised his sword, sending a massive aura arc towards the monster's face. The monster used its strange green aura to block it. Right now, they were fighting a creature more powerful than them, so they could only buy time for Silvus to freely attack and end this monster. Meanwhile, in Fascia, "Don't stand too close to me," Nathan reminded Joseph, who was flying with him. It was a reminder that Nathan possessed the most destructive power among the SSS rank hunters, apart from Farnas Calmot. Even Silvus was slightly below Nathan in pure destructive abilities, but this also limited Nathan's options in a dungeon. Thus, he created his special sword art, which allowed him to maximize his strength in a confined space. However, this was not known to anyone in the world except those Nathan had taught himself. All the SSS rank hunters thought that in restrictive space, Nathan wouldn't be able to use his abilities properly. But they didn't know that it wasn't only Farnas who had an ancient rune. The rune of Aearden allowed Nathan to accommodate space element in his sword art, without having to suffer the side effects of it. 275 Clash of the Strongest, 2. Joseph increased the distance between himself and Nathan, but both of them needed to suppress the SSS rank monsters and, if they couldn't, they needed to hold on and fight until more SSS rank hunters could arrive to help them. As Nathan saw Joseph moving away from him, he ramped up his mana control even further, causing all the mana to swirl around him. The command over mana that Nathan possessed was the strongest in the world. Even Farnas and Silvus couldn't control mana like Nathan could, but that was due to his bloodline ability, which allowed him to exert such dominance over mana. Through the rough summer climate of Fascia, Nathan could see demolished forests and mountains, leaving nothing but dust in the distance. Nathan stopped, and so did Joseph, as they sensed a massive surge of mana just ahead of them. "Seems like this one is quite angry," Nathan said as he surveyed the destruction around them. Soon, a behemoth of a monster emerged from beneath the sand. As it stepped onto the land, sand started falling from its rough skin and glowing red horns. Boom! Even before fully emerging, the monster sent a sonic wave towards Nathan and Joseph. Both of them dodged it, but the monster roared, and Nathan felt the creature's mana clashing with his armor. Nathan was wearing a heavy black armor that covered his whole body, except for his head. It was crafted by Dexter Wright himself. This was an artificial artifact, replete with various runic enhancements and durable enough for Nathan to wear against an SSS rank monster. Unlike Farnes, who had the SSS rank armor, most SSS rank hunters wore custom armor made from an alloy of many strong materials. This armor could withstand and strengthen itself from an SSS rank's aura and mana. Although the consumption was quite substantial, SSS ranks could withstand that, so these types of armor could only be worn by them. Throughout Nathan's armor, there were various glowing red lines of runes that increased the strength of the armor as Nathan used his mana to fuel it. Nathan raised his greatsword and brought it down, sending a red line arc from his blade, but the monster, sensing the power of the attack, dodged instantly. Nathan's attack formed a wide crack on the ground. Joseph unsheathed his sword, which was slightly longer than usual but still a single-handed weapon. Both of them were waiting for the monster to show its power as neither Nathan nor Joseph intended to charge in first without knowing what the monster was capable of. Especially not Nathan, he was not going to lower his guard in this battle at all. Even more so, Nathan was currently very cautious of any traps that could have been set for him. He still had some suspicions about this whole thing, as he didn't believe that a new SSS rank or a pseudo-SSS rank had come into existence. Hiding such a talent was extremely difficult, given the surveillance capacity of the World Association and the other elite families. It was only possible if one of the seat holders was involved in all this chaos, and Nathan didn't trust anyone. This was one of the reasons he had Hassan Trevino and the other two SS rank hunters stay back in Soren to protect the family. But what Nathan didn't know was that it was his grandson, someone he believed would eventually surpass him, Asher himself, who was responsible for all this chaos. Ads by Pub Future. The monster stepped forward and slammed its leg on the ground, creating a mana pulse, and strangely, the environment around Nathan and Joseph changed. From the sunny vista of the dry climate of Fascia to a red sky with a black land filled with multiple cracks. Is it a spatial skill? Joseph immediately distanced himself from the monster. Joseph created an energy point on the tip of his sword, raised it to the sky, and the energy clashed with the false sky. But his attack was absorbed. What? Joseph was confused. His attack should have been able to break anything, considering the amount of concentrated aura he had used, but instead, it was absorbed. Joseph noticed the monster's horn glowing slightly blue. Did it absorb my attack? Joseph asked with a frown on his face. Haha, does this thing think it has trapped me? Nathan laughed as his crimson red eyes began to shine. Suddenly, the monster raised its head to look at Nathan. At this moment, Nathan took control of the mana around him and began absorbing it. This was Nathan's bloodline ability. Unlike others who couldn't absorb wild mana, as that would lead to mana poisoning, Nathan was immune to it. His bloodline ability allowed him to accept any type of mana into his body, but he couldn't use that mana to replenish his mana heart. Instead, Nathan could only use it to enhance his aura. This was something that nobody, except Nathan, possessed in the entire world. As long as Nathan didn't take that mana to his core, he could manipulate it with his mana manipulation abilities. Nathan couldn't use that mana to increase his rank and absorb it, but he could use that mana to exert dominance over others' mana control, and it worked on both humans and monsters alike. This was what the monster was experiencing as it felt a dangerous sensation from Nathan. It was an instinct, but it was only faint. Nathan looked at Joseph, who met his crimson red eyes. Suddenly, the air around Nathan began to tremble. Joseph understood what Nathan wanted to do and immediately retreated as far as he could. The strange land beneath Nathan started to rupture as he raised his sword and assumed his stance. Nathan was about to use his first technique, a legendary sword art that instilled fear in anyone who witnessed it. Suddenly, the space around Nathan began to tremble, though Joseph barely noticed. Nathan disappeared from his spot, and the monster looked up to see a pair of crimson-red eyes shining brighter than the red sky above. In the next instant, Nathan's sword followed an unusual path, and the monster felt the space around it shake as various cuts appeared on its body. "Shatter," Nathan muttered, and a massive amount of mana surged from the ground. His sword's aura descended on the monster, causing an explosion within the spatial trap that the monster had created. Unbeknownst to it, it wasn't Nathan who was trapped in the spatial ability, but the monster itself. "Why did this damn monster create a restricted space?" Joseph asked, annoyed. Currently, Joseph couldn't assist Nathan since most of his destructive abilities did not distinguish between friend or foe. Nathan looked down and saw a massive wound on the monster's back. It seemed okay, but was clearly enraged. Both of them could feel a shift in the mana around them. The temperature began to rise as the mana around the monster swirled, and the monster's wound started to heal, but only up to a certain point. Nathan's attack had caused his mana to linger on the monster's wounds, stopping the bleeding. "Let's take this slowly," Joseph reminded Nathan as he raised his sword and dashed towards the monster. Nathan also disappeared from the sky and moved towards the monster. The monster's horn started shining as Joseph spotted massive fireballs appearing in the sky. False Mana Region. This was the monster's creation, an ability to absorb the attacks that touched the boundary of the false mana region. The efficiency wasn't quite like a true mana region, but the monster had high control over its abilities, making it even more formidable. This was going to be a long fight if Nathan and Joseph hoped to defeat this monster. Meanwhile, in Soren, Leonard was sitting with Reese, discussing their future plans. "Will the treatment be delayed any further?" Reese asked. "The black market will send the mana crystals when my father returns. The loss we will face won't be insignificant," Leonard replied. "This is not good," Reese calmly replied, moving a pawn on the board. "Well, you don't need to defeat Jaden Hargrave," Leonard told Reese. "After all, once we establish our business, we'll be far ahead of the likes of him," Leonard said, moving a knight. "I'm not so sure about that now," Reese replied, catching Leonard's attention. "Are you talking about Zephyr?" Leonard asked, and Reese nodded. "Don't worry, my father will handle that," Leonard replied. After all, his new card, Cassie Hargrave, failed to make any headway at the gala, Leonard added. "He won't let those guys get away with ruining his plans," Leonard assured Reese. "Our current focus is the World Academy," Leonard reminded Reese. "And I've heard that you can't even handle Asher Greville." Reese's words irked Leonard, but as he considered Reese an equal, he didn't react. "Are you suggesting that you could deal with him easily?" Leonard asked. "With the rate he is growing, it will not be easy," Reese replied, "contemporary romance. But not everything needs to be resolved through a fight, am I right?" Reese said with a smile. "Keep repeating what I told you, and you will eventually be able to do it," Asher told Lucas, who nodded with an excited look on his face. Asher had taught him a mage technique that Lucas himself had created. Although the chances were high that Lucas could recreate it, it would take an enormous amount of time. So, Asher found it more efficient to teach him the technique under the guise of sparring and training. And apart from Lucas, no one else could truly use this technique. Only Asher was capable of somewhat imitating it. "Are you going back to the academy?" Lucas asked. "Yeah," Asher replied. He planned to return to the World Academy soon, as there was no longer a need for him to stay outside. After all, the main reason Asher awakened the calamities was to move Farnas out of the World Academy. "Rest now," Asher said as he turned and headed towards his room. The servants gave Lucas some hand towels to remove the sweat from his face. "Where is Liv?" Lucas asked one of the maids. "Young lady is on the second floor," she replied. "I should take a shower," Lucas thought, feeling his body drenched in sweat. Amelia and Damien had left with Livia when Asher began teaching Lucas about his mistakes. In his room, Asher changed his clothes as he examined the card-type artifact that he had taken from the heist in Desmer. "Time to use it," Asher said. Asher could activate this artifact at any time, but doing so would prevent him from bringing it into the World Academy. Therefore, he needed to add this artifact's mana frequency to the World Academy's system. However, the security surrounding the World Academy's data system was too robust for Asher to breach. Even Kai, with his bloodline ability, would be unable to enter. The moment he stepped foot inside, Farnas would sense their presence, and what awaited them was only death. Farnas had complete freedom to kill anyone, no matter who they were, if they entered the World Academy without permission. And the fact that Farnas never left the World Academy made it impossible for Asher to access that data system without escaping Farnas's gaze. One of the reasons Asher had awakened all those calamities was to force Farnas to leave the World Academy for the first time in years. "Your own method helped quite a lot," Asher muttered as he reviewed the information Tom had sent him about the Tervian family. The method to awaken those SSS rank monsters was not something that Asher discovered himself. Instead, it was a technique found by the World Association, thanks to the combined efforts of all the seat holders. Asher called Tom, whose face appeared on the hologram. "Leak the information about the 4 calamities," Asher instructed as he looked at Tom. Apart from the seat holders and a few others, the number of calamities awakened was kept hidden from the world. At that moment, everyone assumed there were at most 3 calamities. But the people in Belveria were oblivious that their continent was facing 2 SSS rank monsters. Ads by Pub Future. "And about those companies?" Tom asked. "Let them fight each other," Asher replied. "We don't need them all." Asher's emotionless gaze made Tom uneasy. Right now, Asher's words alone were deciding the futures of people who held significant power in various continents' economies. "I will release this information to the news sources first," Tom said before Asher disconnected the call. Asher gazed at the world map, on which all 5 continents were visible. "Well, I wonder if anyone will die," Asher mused, looking at Belveria. Even he himself didn't know which monsters he had awakened, he only knew about the method. In his previous life, he remembered that any information about all this was strictly restricted. The only thing he was certain of were the monsters in Desmer and Fascia, having seen the files about those monsters in his previous life. "Sir, look at this," an assistant told a man in a suit, who turned to see what was happening. "What's wrong?" the man asked as he came closer to look. "This can't be," the man exclaimed in shock. "Did they provide any proof?" he asked. "Not for the number of calamities, but the presence of SSS rank hunters in Belveria and other continents can confirm the news," the assistant explained. "As for the second part, they have provided sufficient information. What are we waiting for, then?" the man asked. "Regardless of any pressure from them, publish the news. We can't lag behind others." "But what if they ask us to take it down?" the assistant questioned, realizing the sensitivity of the situation. "We can remove it later, but we must publish it first," the man insisted. "Announce it in the broadcast. I will handle any issues that arise," the man said, especially emphasizing the second part as a smile appeared on his face. "We can use all this to secure the top spot," he said as he clicked on his phone. "But don't push it too soon. I will confirm a few things first," the man reminded his assistant as he quickly turned to leave. All the news sources had received similar information and none of them wanted to fall behind in the race. In an instant, all the news sources were covering it. Breaking news: the number of calamities in Belveria is said to be 2. The news anchor declared. "No way." A middle-aged woman who was watching the news expressed her shock. Not only her, but the expressions of everyone in Belveria changed as they heard multiple sources reporting the same thing. At the World Association headquarters in Belveria. Who the hell is spreading this information? The executive shouted. They had just managed to calm the public unrest and were monitoring for any criminal activities in the meantime, but out of nowhere, crucial information had been leaked. Contact these bastards and tell them to stop all this nonsense, the executive said with an angry look on his face. Sir, the information has spread across the internet, suppressing it will be useless, one person said. Ah, then just spread rumors that the news is false, the executive said. Do anything to calm these people down, he said, but everyone in the room was confused as they couldn't think of any solutions. Contemporary romance. They were already suppressing all sorts of articles or news about Zephyr, but now they had to calm the public down as well. The current situation was not at a level where it could be controlled anymore. In Belvaria, at the mansion where Kasi was staying. So you are telling me none of those organizations have a single clue about this Zephyr? Kasi asked. That's what we got as a reply, the man nervously replied. All the servants in this mansion were worried as they could sense that Kasi was quite annoyed since she returned from the gala. Every single servant was avoiding going near Kasi as much as they could. Go back and tell them to keep looking for clues, Kasi said. A maid was standing beside her as Kasi tapped on her phone and a picture of Lucas and Livia popped up. It was from the news sources that were going crazy over the Ivers children, so it was obvious why such headlines were made. If the Zephyr incident hadn't happened, Lucas and Livia would have been the highlight of the news along with Asher and his partner who shocked the world. What do you think about these two? Kasi asked the maid standing beside her. This could be my chance, the maid thought in her head. She had been serving the Hargraves for years, but it was the first time she had been this close to Kasi Hargrave. Aren't these two the illegitimate children? The maid said. Just by looking at them, anybody can see they don't belong in such a place, the maid said confidently. Right, just by looking at them, their filthy background is so obvious, Kasi said as a smile appeared on her face. I heard some rumors that their mother isn't even alive, the maid shared what she had heard from other servants. Kasi's smile didn't disappear, but if Lucas and Livia's mother was still alive, Kasi would have tried to kill her, disregarding any thoughts about the consequences she might face. Just by looking at them, it's so obvious that that man didn't suit our young lady at all. The maid started speaking, thinking that Kasi was enjoying it. He might have been just as filthy as their mother, and ignoring Ayangla, before the maid could finish, she felt the mana pressure of Kasi. The maid got nervous when she saw Kasi standing up and coming towards her. I am sorry, she didn't know what she did wrong, but she apologized. Before she could finish her sentence, Kasi grabbed her face, her eyes looking down at her. Did you say that he is filthy? Kasi asked, and the maid started crying. Kasi forced the maid to open her mouth as a ball of lava formed just above her fingertip. The maid couldn't move and a scream was heard by the other servants, as Kasi poured lava into her mouth. The other servants heard a scream, but they chose to ignore whatever happened inside Kasi's room. It was better for them to just avoid the area. After a few minutes, Kasi stepped out of her room, noticing the empty hallway. She went towards her bedroom, in which a single portrait of Eva Greville was present. She approached it, looking at the portrait. They will pay the price, Kasi said as she touched the portrait, a smile appearing on her face. How many S-rank hunters are on the border? The official asked in a meeting with various high-ranking members of different guilds. We have sent a total of 27 S-rank hunters from our side, one guild representative replied, contemporary romance. We have sent 32 S-rank hunters, another added. One by one, other guilds also reported the number of S-rank hunters they had sent to handle the monster tide. We have confirmed the security of the 3 continents, the official concluded the meeting. At the border of Fascia. They keep coming, one man exclaimed, his spear piercing a monster. We are still better off than them, another responded. Currently, they were only dealing with monsters that weren't too powerful to defeat. Right now, the World Association, united with the Guild under Joseph Kimia Cranston and the Abyss Guild, were confronting the monsters that posed the real challenge. Hunters clad in black clothing bearing the Abyss Guild insignia were seen delving deeper into the lands, becoming the first line of defense. Unlike other guilds, the larger guilds trained their hunters to handle the lost lands occasionally. Among them, the training process of the Abyss Guild necessitated every high-ranking hunter to enter the lost land and fight there. This resulted in the Abyss Guild killing the most monsters, making a significant impact in saving Fascia. However, their problems were not diminishing. Joseph and Nathan were still battling, and the clash of their mana with the SSS rank monster made even the SS rank monsters move towards the border of Fascia. If only Sir Hassan were here, one of the SS rank hunters of the Abyss Guild lamented as he killed an S rank monster. Don't slack off, the Guildmaster will not let us off if we let even a single monster pass this place, another SS rank hunter shouted, ensuring that every single hunter in the Abyss Guild could hear him. Earthwall, mages shouted as they conjured a barrier to block the monsters from getting past them. As the hunters were fighting, another wave of rank monsters emerged, but one person, Cade Cranston, charged forward. His sword shone as he cut through the wave of monsters. The hunters of the Cranston family followed him, dealing with the monsters in his wake. Don't lose to others, the Cranston family hunters roared. Blood soaked the ground as monsters kept dying, and amid the explosions of mana, various S and SS rank hunters continued to fight. The environment around them was constantly being destroyed, but the mages were managing that so others could fight freely. Cade looked at the other monsters as his sword effortlessly penetrated the hard skin of the A-rank monsters. As the heir of the Cranston family, he had placed himself at the front line, while the Cranston family head was managing the situation inside Fascia. Adds by Pub Future. His presence greatly boosted the morale of the other hunters. Hold on, this will end soon, Cade shouted, but little did he know, the two SSS rank hunters were still battling the awakened calamity. Nathan appeared behind the monster, but just as he was about to attack, the monster lifted its body into the air and unleashed a violent blast of energy. This bastard moves too much, Nathan complained, instantly shifting his body to a different location. Serene slash, Joseph attacked the monster, but it raised its claw as Joseph's sword clashed with it. Joseph tried to push in, but the monster pushed him backwards. Nathan, however, seized the opportunity and dashed forward, descending his greatsword onto the monster's head. The monster tilted its head, pushing Joseph to the spatial boundary and attempted to eat Nathan, but it felt a dangerous aura from Nathan's greatsword. Instead of biting Nathan to death, the monster used its horn to try to kill Nathan. Instead of pushing Nathan back, though, the monster felt its horn clash with the greatsword. It tried to push Nathan back, but it was futile. Veins bulged around Nathan's neck as he withstood the strength of an SSS rank monster. His greatsword began glowing with the mana he was manipulating, and surprisingly, in this potentially fatal situation, Nathan was smiling. Crack. The next moment, a crack appeared in the monster's horn and it cried out loudly. Roar. The monster roared. This made the whole spatial boundary shake, and while it shrank in size, its horn also diminished but started to glow more brightly. Spatial shift, Nathan muttered as he suddenly disappeared from his place and reappeared a few steps forward, his body shifting downwards. Nathan rotated his body as his greatsword slashed the back of the monster's head, behind its horns. Even though the strike was far from the skin, the monster felt a massive cut on the back of its head. Nathan felt danger and immediately stepped forward, evading the massive stream of mana around the monster, which cried out in pain. The monster was beyond enraged by Nathan's attack. The behemoth turned towards Nathan, completely ignoring Joseph's presence. Nathan's gaze looked down at the monster, waiting for it to make a move. He didn't have to wait long, as Joseph saw multiple spikes erupt towards them from the spatial boundary. Damn it, Joseph muttered as a spike narrowly missed him. Strangely enough, these spikes were made of extremely violent mana which would make wounds inflicted by them almost irreparable for a long time. They wouldn't be able to treat a wound from one of these spikes with a healing potion. Right now, Nathan and Joseph had a slight advantage over the SSS rank monster, primarily because of Nathan's sword art. But the moment they got hurt, the tide of the battle would shift. Presently, both Nathan and Silvus were somehow keeping up with the SSS rank monsters. Far from Desma's border, Silvus summoned multiple chains while Dalton attacked the monster alongside the vice-chairman of the World Association. Bloom of Siazelm, Silvus chanted, causing a massive plant to appear. Its vines started wrapping around 4 stone pillars. Silvus created a barrier that trapped the monster while using another high-tier earth element restriction spell. The vines started wrapping around the monster, which tried to break free. However, the coordinated attack from the others made it difficult. When Silvus had someone that could keep the foe busy, no one could stop him as his mastery over magic was the best in the world. The SSS rank monster was currently suffering from the talent of the Archmage. However, everyone was cautious. Silvus's use of different elemental magic caused the weather to change, clouds forming and the smoke from his fire element subsiding as rain started to pour. From unknown abilities to any unforeseen variable, a single moment was enough for them to lose the upper hand in battle. But the situation in Belveria was completely different. Stay away when he attacks, Osbert, Farnas instructed Osbert Tervian, an SSS rank hunter who had accompanied him. The SSS rank calamity they were facing wasn't a behemoth but a smaller monster about 3 times the size of an adult human. Covered in shiny red scales with brown fur around its neck and head, the monster had 3 eyes and stood on 2 legs. A faint orange aura could be seen traveling through the cracks of the red scales. Farnas disappeared, leaving a trail of bluish aura as he revolved his spear. The air swirled violently around him, as lightning erupted from the ground. From a distance, Osbert observed as Farnas Calmot, the spear god, charged towards the calamity. Farnas, donned in storm-scale armor, held his spear that glowed with the traverse of lightning across his body. Unlike typical lightning, Farnas's element destructively impacted everything it landed on, leaving numerous craters across the battlefield, each a testament to Farnas's strength. However, the problem arose: the monster was not a standard one. It was notably shorter than any other SSS rank monsters they had encountered, and its speed could rival Farnas. Farnas's lightning element provided him with an edge over the monster, but this insight didn't permit Osbert to recklessly attack the monster. Lightning descent, Farnas commanded, bringing his spear to the ground. Lightning began to converge near the monster's legs, erupting and assaulting the creature. Osbert's sword started to glow red as flames materialized around his arm. Fire being his primary element, he dashed towards the monster, which took a step back after enduring Farnas's attack. Osbert's flaming sword cut through the air, attempting to penetrate the monster's back. Reinforcing his grip on the sword, Osbert strained to push it further into the creature. In the next instant, Farnas materialized, and his spear pierced the monster's gut. The impact from Farnas's strike alone was enough to shake Osbert's entire arm, even though he only felt the impact through the monster's body. The monster's white eyes cast downward as it twisted its abdomen. But rather than writhing in pain, the monster's body started to heat up. Osbert noticed the scales began to melt, the wound started healing, and from the molten red scales, a massive claw and a skeletal armor formed on the SSS rank monster. "What the hell is this monster?" Osbert muttered, a frown creasing his face. "It can heal, but there seems to be a limit," Farnas observed, noting the diminished fur around the region he'd attacked with his spear. Farnas's hair fluttered in the wind as he raised his mana. His spear began to glow blue, and golden runes materialized along its length. Osbert could feel the disparity in their strength, but he understood why Farnes was growing serious. This SSS rank monster was at least a mid-SSS rank monster. While the fight of the SSS rank hunter was ongoing, rumors about Zephyr and the awakened calamities spread far and wide across every continent. However, these rumors were becoming exaggerated, creating a problem as maintaining public safety in such a situation was nearly impossible. "What are you thinking about?" Sylvie asked Arthur. Both of them were preparing to leave Mazelm Island and return to Soren. All the families and guests had returned to their respective continents, and the Kalwas Gala was halted. Even the auction was stopped, the vaults were sealed again, and they were sent to the Artisans Association. Not wanting to risk it any further, the vaults were sent to be kept under the eye of Dexter Wright, the only SSS rank hunter that had not gone to face the calamity. "Ah, nothing," Arthur replied. But in his head, he was compiling a list of people who could be behind Zephyr. Regardless, this situation wasn't benefiting anyone in the elite families. Their reputation was being tarnished, and the resources that would be lost or used in stopping the monster tide were significant. "You seem eager to go back home," Arthur said, changing the subject. "Of course, I still have many questions for my son," Sylvie replied. Arthur remembered the night party, particularly Asher's entrance. "I almost forgot about it," Arthur said. "I want to ask him, who is that girl?" Sylvie said. Arthur could understand why Sylvie wanted to know about that girl first before making any decisions. Arthur understood that aside from being the heir of the Greville family, Asher was considered to potentially become the strongest hunter of this generation. His talent was even said to surpass Nathaniel and Ivor Greville. It wasn't hard to realize that the number of people wanting to take advantage of this situation was not low. In a private villa in Soren. "So, did you find any clues?" Leonard asked a middle-aged man. The man was the assistant of Osbert Tervian, so Leonard could freely contact him. "I can't use the World Association database, but from my personal investigation, I didn't find any substantial results," the man said. "Keep looking, I want to know who that girl is," Leonard commanded, and the man immediately nodded. "And the formalities about our company are ready, right?" Leonard asked. "We have contacted all the possible people that we could merge within this project, so it won't be an issue," the assistant replied. "I want all the major businesses, distributors, everyone on our side," Leonard stated. "Ignore Somaria, just focus on the other four," Leonard added with a calm look on his face. Leonard was already informed that all their spies and moles in the Abyss Corporation were killed, and some didn't dare betray the Abyss Corporation anymore. Ads by Pub Future. Without the support of any of the elite families of Somaria, it was nearly impossible for them to enter the market of Somaria. "We don't have to worry about them," the assistant was saying something but stopped midway. Leonard raised his eyebrows as he noticed the assistant's behavior. "What the hell?" the assistant exclaimed as he watched the news. "What happened?" Leonard asked, confused. "The news, it's..." The assistant was too shocked to articulate. "Contemporary romance." Leonard himself tapped on his phone, and the news broadcast popped up. Many news sources were covering stories about corruption and misuse of power among many large and small corporations. It was completely unexpected, and both Leonard and the assistant were shocked as they couldn't comprehend how such a thing had happened. The reactions of those exposed were full of horror, while others were full of expectations. So he was telling the truth. One of the owners of a company that was going to sign a contract with a big upcoming corporation, said to himself. He had received insider information about multiple people being accused of various crimes, data he wasn't even aware of. But the current situation was not exactly convenient for them to manipulate the media. Even in this situation, those in the business industry were looking for a way to profit. A simple strategy was to crush the people who were being mentioned all over the news. "I cannot believe that these people were like this," a middle-aged woman said as she watched the news. From corruption to harassment, and even worse things were being reported. This caused quite an uproar, as families of those implicated were being discussed all over the internet. "Hey, who the hell leaked this video footage?" An old man shouted at a room full of people. "We don't know, sir, we're trying to find out," a young man spoke up. "Damn it, those bastards won't let this opportunity go," the old man said irritably. The empire he had built his entire life was about to crumble. As he had predicted, various other people who were not exposed were attacking their company. "This should be enough," Tom said as he sent half the information he had to news sources. "Now, just as the boss said, they will do the rest of the work," Tom said as he relaxed in his chair. Asher's plan was to cripple the economic support they had for the future corporation that Reese and Leonard were going to lead. But doing so required too much time and effort if done the conventional way, and time was something they didn't have. So the best option was to let those people handle each other while trying to survive themselves. Asher, who was on his way to the World Academy, saw the news making headlines. The same officials of the World Associations were pushing this news. They had found a way to distract people. It should be done before he returns, Asher thought to himself. The timing needed to be perfect, as Osbert's return would resolve this issue. All the people being exposed had one thing in common. They had a contract with a business corporation set to introduce itself to the world in the coming years. The list that was exposed to the news sources had only 11 names on it, but all those people were heavily invested in the business plan that was being made by Osbert Turvian himself. Currently, they were being attacked by the same people who had contact with the Turvian family and the Williams family's heir. The opportunity to remove your competition was too enticing for certain individuals to resist betraying these people and worsening their cases. Public scrutiny was high, as Asher noticed the comments people were making about the whole situation. All these people were trying to figure out how this leak occurred and who had betrayed them, but they could never imagine in their wildest dreams that their current predicament was a result of Osbert Turvian's actions. Osbert was a type of man who didn't trust anyone, even with a mana oath. He wanted something more under his control so that if someone went against him, their traces could be removed. All this information was found in the leaked data under Osbert's name. Soon, Asher reached the portal dome, and it was time for him to enter the World Academy before Fanas could return. "Remove their names," Leonard said as he thought about it calmly. "But young master, the loss would be too great on our side," the assistant replied. "Just do as I say," Leonard responded, his face calm. "I will handle whatever father says about this," Leonard said, and the assistant nodded. This whole situation had cornered them deeply, and now this leak had forced Leonard to make this choice. If Osbert weren't away, he could make all these people sit down calmly, but his absence had made the situation much worse. Inside the World Academy, "Why did I agree to all this?" Professor Argus said as he tapped his fingers repeatedly on the book cover. He was getting anxious. After all, he was asked to breach the data system and authorize illegal artifacts into the World Academy. This was a crime that could cost Argus his life if he was caught, but he had no choice but to follow Asher's orders. After all, if he didn't, the result would remain the same. It didn't matter where Argus leaned. Both sides had only cliffs, and he was bound to fall. "Yeah, the principal is away. I can get away with this," Argus tried to convince himself. Even though Fanas was away, the security of the World Academy was not a joke, but Asher had told him to only go as far as the data system. Argus had the authority to enter there, but tampering with it would raise alarms, and he would end up getting caught. He didn't understand why the heir of the Greville family was so keen on bringing the artifacts inside. "Shit," Argus cursed. "Why is he making me do this?" Argus muttered. Asher was the most powerful in the first year. He didn't need those artifacts. But despite that, he was making Argus do something that could expel both of them from the World Academy. Asher got out of his car as he saw the portal dome in sight. Due to the recent situation, the security around the portal dome had been increased tenfold. The portal dome was the only way to enter the flying island of the World Academy, and if someone wanted to force their way in, they needed to be at least peak SS rank hunters to withstand the spatial pressure all around these flying islands. The security guards moved to allow Asher to enter. Going in, Asher took out his ID bracelet, which confirmed his identity. "You can go in," the security guard said as he opened the gate for Asher. Inside the gate was the teleporting gate. Asher could easily see the amount of runes that were present around it. If anyone tried to force their way to use this gate, the people at the World Academy could easily activate this runic formation which would shift the coordinates of the teleportation device. And if they were fast enough to enter it, their mana would leave an imprint on the detection runes, alerting the people at the World Academy. Asher went in and arrived at the flying island shortly after. Someone handed Asher a hoverboard to go to the inner sector where the World Academy was situated. The outer sector was almost empty as even the students at the World Academy saw the broadcast of the Kalwas Gala. Almost all of them were stuck inside their room, watching all the events being posted on the internet. Many people were even contacting their families, as they were quite confused by all this. Asher took out his ID bracelet and contacted Professor Argus to inform him that he had arrived at the World Academy. "Time to get things done," Asher said as he traveled the outer sector with the hoverboard. He entered the inner sector, which was just as empty as the outer sector. Only a few staff members could be seen. Asher first went inside the ranker's dorm to change his uniform. He was waiting for Argus's confirmation, as entering the place where the data system was stored was not easy. They needed to be precise with their timings and ensure nobody could catch them. Argus was waiting for that opportunity as well. In the faculty building. "Yeah, I think I will change my course a bit starting next year," Argus said to his assistant. Argus's eyes looked around, making sure that he created as many alibis as possible. Despite needing to follow Asher's absurd request, he wanted to create as many backup plans for himself as possible. The only reason he was cooperating with Asher was to save himself. "Did you inform Sir Zemal about my visit?" he asked. "Yes, we have received confirmation from them," the assistant replied immediately. "Here is the card we received from them." The assistant pulled out a card that allowed Argus to enter the place where the professors registered their artifacts. Mostly all these artifacts were shown to the security team of the World Academy first, so that their use could be monitored. Ads by PubFuture. Argus had already obtained permission from Farnas, and all he needed to do was wait to register the mana frequency of these artifacts, whose entry was already approved by Farnas himself. All the 3-star professors had the authority to bring their own artifacts if they gave a valid reason for their use. Even while teaching at the World Academy, all the 3-star professors were allowed to have artifacts that helped them increase their ranks or with their personal training. A separate training facility had been made for them so that teaching at the World Academy wouldn't hamper their growth. That bastard got lucky with this timing, Argus thought in his head as he remembered Asher telling him to submit his request to Farnas to bring him some mana-gathering artifacts. Argus was hoping that Farnas would reject his application, but it got accepted. This made Argus anxious, thinking that someday he would need to allow Asher to infiltrate the data center. But he was relieved that luck was on their side, and all the ruckus in the outside world made their plan easier since Farnas was no longer present at the World Academy. "Can you call Mark for me?" Argus told his assistant. He nodded and left the room. Argus took out his ID bracelet and contacted Asher, informing him it was time and they could begin their plan now. Asher, who was in the ranker's dorm, saw this message and took out the card-type artifact. He stood up to leave the ranker's dorm and head to the faculty building where Argus was waiting for him. At the security room of the World Academy. "Did any news come from the principal?" Zemal asked. None of the SSS rank hunters have responded yet, a man replied. So it will take more than a week before we hear any news, Zemal muttered. Zemal was hoping that the news was false and Farnas could return earlier. But knowing that whatever the masked man said was real, Zemal could deduce the time it would take for Farnas to come back. Even the dungeon raids of SSS rank dungeons took a couple of months at least for the team of a few SSS rank hunters and other SS rank monsters to clear them. Keep capturing the footage near the portal dome, Zemal instructed. And are all the portals turned off? Zemal asked. The man nodded. The portals that were temporarily made for the midterms and for the professors to inspect the examination sites were all closed. All of the security team were too worried about the outside threat that they didn't even think that someone from inside could create a problem for them. In half an hour, Asher was sitting inside Agus's office with another assistant named Mark, who was confused why Agus called him. You can take his ID, Agus said, but Mark was confused. Don't think too much about it, Agus said, and Mark became quiet instantly. Mark was aware of Agus's misuse of his power and had helped him many times, but he was confused as to why Asher Greville was sitting there with them. However, Mark wasn't stupid enough to question Agus. He knew that Agus could have him expelled from the World Academy with his authority. Mark didn't want to make trouble for himself. Mark walked towards Asher and gave him his ID bracelet, but he was confused. Give him the spare clothes that I made you bring as well, Agus said. Ah, okay. Mark took out a coat and white shirt, along with a black pant. You can change there, Agus said, careful with his tone. After all, the person sitting in front of him held his career in his hands. Asher took the clothes and went to change into the formal attire. Mark, Agus said. Yes, Professor, Mark replied. Contemporary romance. Make sure you stay here and don't open the door for others. You will be Asher Greville for a few hours, Agus said. Mark was confused, but Agus continued anyway. I will tell them he came for some extra lessons and stayed to practice a few things, Agus said. What if someone comes in? Mark asked, becoming nervous. He didn't know why, but something was telling him he was in trouble. Nobody will come in, and ensure that no one sees you here, Agus said as he exerted his mana pressure on Mark. Ah, yes, Professor, Mark replied instantly, afraid of upsetting Agus. He knew how problematic it could be if Agus got in a bad mood. Agus briefed Mark on a few things that he needed to bear in mind. Agus stood up as soon as he saw Asher emerge from the room, dressed in clothes similar to Mark's. Despite the matching attire, the two of them bore no resemblance to each other. Let's go, said Asher as he took Mark's cap and glasses as well. Agus opened the door to find his office practically deserted. He had sent most of his staff to spend some time learning about the unfolding situation outside. The chaos outside had fortuitously made Agus's task of hiding Asher significantly easier as they prepared to make their way to the data system room. Agus was certain that nobody would see Asher as the entrance to the data system room was through the elevator on his floor. All he needed was the access card he got from Zemal, and he would be able to access the data system room. This room was a place where all professors had their approved artifacts scanned, and their mana frequencies entered so that these artifacts didn't set off the alarms of the World Academy. Please stay behind me, just in case, Agus advised as he glanced at Asher. Asher positioned himself behind Agus in the elevator. His indifferent gaze was fixed on Agus, whose nervousness was all too apparent. Agus often played with fire by using students to his advantage, but he always ensured he was careful with his plans and the targets he chose. Listen, both of us will get into trouble if we do this, Agus stated, coming to a stop. He had pulled out the access card but lacked the courage to use it. For the last time, just as he had over the past couple of months, Agus attempted to reason with Asher. Don't push your luck, Professor, Agus, Asher said, his indifferent eyes looking at Argus, who was standing still. "Do I need to repeat myself?" Asher asked. "No," Argus replied, placing the card near the scanner. Asher was standing behind Argus, so he couldn't see the expression of anger etched on Argus's face. Never in his life had Argus imagined that he would be forced to obey another's orders, his whole life and career hanging on another person's whim. Less than access to the data system room confirmed greater than. The robotic voice was audible to both of them as the elevator began to ascend. Their destination was 2 floors below the topmost floor, where Farnas always stayed. Farnas occasionally used his floor to practice his mana circulation, so he evacuated everyone from the 5 floors below him. That was why there were no guards directly safeguarding the data system room. The security system and Farnas himself were sufficient to keep unwanted intruders out. "I will remind you again, you will not be able to register your artifacts," Argus stated as the elevator doors opened to reveal a vast room. Argus moved forward and Asher, donning a cap, followed suit. Argus noticed various security devices scanning the ID bracelets on their wrists. "Less than entry confirmed Argus Vermont greater than. Less than entry confirmed Mark Stevenson greater than." The robotic voice echoed in the room, heard by both Asher and Argus, who continued walking towards the center where a massive cube was situated. This was where every artifact was placed and its mana frequency recorded, while those that possessed them used them. "I want to record the mana frequency," Argus declared, halting in front of the cube. "Less than initializing the recording protocol greater than. Less than please enter the ID of the artifact greater than." The robotic voice guided Argus as a hologram appeared. After an inspection by the security team, the artifact's information was recorded by the team, and Argus only needed to enter the room and record the mana frequency. This was why he had told Asher it was futile, as he couldn't register his own artifact. "If you place your artifact there, it will scan for the specific details recorded by the security team," Argus explained, producing a ring, the artifact he had permission for. "Only if you have a similar artifact can you record it here," Argus stated. But deep down, he yearned to see the look of defeat on Asher's face. Ads by Pub Future. He had been compelled to bring Asher here, but he knew it would be fruitless. Even if Asher possessed a ring-type artifact, that artifact would be registered under Argus's name. For Asher to use it, he needed to purchase it via the trade center, which was impossible as the artifact Argus had brought was an S-rank artifact. And a student couldn't possess an artifact above A rank at all in the World Academy. It made sense for a person like Argus to use an S-rank artifact, as an A-rank artifact was useless for him due to his rank. Farnas would have rejected it. He had explained this to Asher, but Asher told him not to overthink it. His only task was to bring Asher here, which he had accomplished. Now he wanted to see what Asher could do. "Now this bastard will see how wrong he was," Argus thought, maintaining his neutral expression. He didn't want to agitate Asher and make an enemy out of him, as Asher still possessed all the evidence against Argus. If Asher weren't from the Greville family or any influential family, Argus would never have allowed someone to control him like this. He couldn't overcome Asher's status, so his only option was to obey Asher's orders. Asher stepped forward upon seeing the cube, crouching down to place his hand on the robust metal structure. Asher stood up, circling the cube. "If you're done, we should head back," Argus suggested, aware that cameras were continuously recording the room. But the only person with access to this footage was Farnas himself. And typically, Farnas wouldn't go out of his way to review the footage, as his mana sense was adequate to know what was transpiring in this room. All the professors were cognizant of this. If Farnas hadn't left the World Academy, Argus would have brought Asher here with the pretext of satisfying Asher's curiosity due to losing a bet against him. That way, even if Farnas had detected and stopped them, he could have found a way out, as he didn't bring Asher here covertly like now. But that also implied they would be caught anyway. Argus had brought Asher here as Mark because Farnas wasn't present. However, he didn't want Asher to linger here any longer. Make a cut here, Asher directed, pointing at a particular part of the large cube. Huh? Argus responded in surprise, confusion evident on his face. Hey, we can't do that, it will alert the security system. The runes here. Argus moved closer to prevent Asher from tampering with the cube. But he halted when he saw Asher coat his fist in aura and punch a specific part behind the cube. No. Argus hastily approached the cube, but Asher's punch hadn't damaged it nor triggered the security system. Cut a narrow line here to create an opening, Asher instructed, observing the anxious Argus. Argus almost panicked when he saw Asher's punch. He was about to use his mana to push Asher away but restrained himself. He didn't want to add harming the heir of the Greville family to his list of crimes. Do it if you don't want to get caught here, Asher said as mana started flowing out of his hand and onto the big cube. Argus was confused, but Asher didn't give him time to contemplate anything. Crouching down, Argus fashioned a blade from his aura and made a square cut to remove a section of metal from the big cube. Asher peered into the opening, revealing a complex system of circuit boards that controlled the cube's functions. Asher produced a chip, a device Tom had constructed after extracting data from the operating tower. The cube was a device used in certain areas of the World Association's main headquarters. Tom had spent hours studying it, identifying potential points of data breach and manipulation, contemporary romance. Because Asher had told him in advance about the data he wanted to input, it was relatively straightforward for Tom to design a program that could help Asher, provided that Asher could access the recording table itself. The recording table was the big cube that stood before Asher and Argus. Following Tom's detailed blueprint of the board functions, Asher crouched down and slotted the chip into one of the boards. Everything had been carefully committed to Asher's memory, making the task effortless. Wait, what are you putting inside? Argus asked, panic creeping into his voice. Less than input data received greater than. Less than checking access authority. Process stopped. Bypassing authority. Adding data greater than. A robotic voice announced, prompting Asher to rise to his feet. This left Argus completely bewildered by the unfolding events. Less than artifact ID updated greater than. Asher advanced towards the front, brandishing a card. Type artifact. He placed it on top of the cube, then extracted a small vial of blood and dripped its contents onto the card. The card's embedded jewel gleamed as the artifact activated. To register it, Asher needed to activate the artifact. Less than recording the mana frequency greater than. A force field enveloped the card as Asher watched the jewel illuminate. Subsequently, a mark was engraved on the top right corner of the card.